Welcome to Broadway Drumming 101. Today, my special guest is Jaylen Petinaud.
Yeah,
How are you today, man?
I'm good. I'm good.
I remember years ago, I would do these gigs at this place called the LaGuardia High School, and I was playing with this group, and we would be the backing band for these special events at LaGuardia. And every year I was there, this young man would come up to me and introduce himself and say, "Hi, my name is Jaylen. I'm 10 years old now." And you weren't 10, but you were young. And I know you were just interested in meeting me, and you were very out there and assertive.
Yeah.
And then every year I went back, I saw you, and I think I can't remember the last time I saw you there, but then the next time we caught up. I heard that you went to SUNY Purchase, and then I think we met at the cutting room one day. All of a sudden, I just turned around, and there you were. I think that's
Oh
what it
wow.
was.
Oh wow. Yes, I remember that. Oh my God. Yeah, that's throwback.
But I just never forget how you were interested in, what I was doing. And, we kept in touch. And next thing I see that you're playing off Broadway shows with Kenny Seymour, you're doing for Color Girls, then you get Hell's Kitchen, and now you're with Herbie Hancock. It's really cool to see, man. It's really cool to see. Congratulations on all your success. And what was the thing you just got nominated for again?
I got nominated for best jazz drummer in 2024. It's
Now we're
crazy good.
talking. All right,
It was
so
crazy.
when did you find out about that?
I found out as I was boarding my plane, like going coming to here, like coming to New Zealand, going to Australia, coming to this side. I was confused. I was like, wait, is it a mistake? Like, how am I in this category? Because I'm in the category of all my heroes. Like these are all my big brothers I look up with. And I was just confused. And then people were texting me like, congratulations. And I'm like, what's going on? So I found out like literally as I was going on the plane. And I was like, yo, this is crazy. Yeah.
That's cool. That's so cool, man. So when you were young, did you always want to be a professional musician, or did you have other aspirations?
When I was younger, my biggest dream was to be in the NBA.
Really?
I was trying to play basketball. See, my dad he was tall, and my brothers are tall, my sisters are tall, and I was like really into basketball. And then, but I grew up in church, and like
Okay.
music was kind of something that I would do, like just on the weekends. But ball, I would when I'm in school, I can't wait like basketball was my biggest thing. But then when I didn't grow, I was like, maybe I should stick with the music. No, in actuality, when I got to high school, that's when I was like, no, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Music and basketball was the big things growing up.
Can you still play?
Oh yeah. I can still
All
play
right.
baseball.
And what position did you play in? And did you play in junior high, high school?
Yeah, I played in like high school. I was, it was either due to musical or due to due to the sports thing. So I kind of was like, let me stick with what I think I would benefit more from. So I was doing a lot of pickup stuff, but I would play like point guard was my position. Sometimes shooting guard, depending on how tall everybody is on the court. So
Okay.
yeah,
When you were younger, who'd you look up to?
in terms of sports,
Yes.
oh, I was Carmelo.
Well, really?
Yeah, that was my favorite player. You see, I know it's controversial, but Melo was my favorite player growing up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, he's great, man.
Nuggets,
He's no joke.
Nuggets Mellow.
Are you still a
Yeah.
Nuggets fan, or are you just wherever
Oh,
Carmelo
I'm
went?
a diehard Knicks fan. Diehard Knicks
Okay.
fan. Diehard
Okay.
Knicks fan. So yeah. I
Okay.
grew up Knicks.
I sometimes I digress, but what is going on? They traded away two players, man. What's going on? What's his name? Who
we
left? What's his name?
Julius Randle and Dante
Y-
DiVincenzo left.
yes, I'm like,
And,
yo. I mean,
and we got Carl Town.
I'm not a Knicks fan, but I like the way they played last year. And Brunson, I was like, man, they're going to be a great team. But they got what's his face? What's his name again? It's
Carl
late.
Anthony Town.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
Yeah. It's looking good. I just hope that they be able to coexist and like be able to work on that chemistry because we got a nice squad. I really wanted to see the Villanova five, but I think this was a step in the right direction to where we need because we've been losing for a long time. So we're in a winning direction. I'm excited to see how the season goes.
I guess you were car. You know, I went to see a Knicks game. I forgot what year it was, but I was sitting in the stands with my girlfriend. I got a tickets through a friend of mine, and
Uh-huh.
then Carmelo scored 30, and then 40, and then
Ooh.
50. Well, like he's got 55 points, and then he wound up with 61. Right? I think that's what it
Right
was. His
at the Garden.
Yes, it was at the guard. Yeah, he's no
Mellow.
joke, man. He's no joke. It's too bad he didn't like, I'm sorry we're like digressing from drumming, but he didn't leave the way I thought he should have left. He just kind of faded away, didn't he?
Yeah, they kind of, yeah, it was just the front office, whoever, I forgot who I don't know if it's James Doman, whoever, or Phil Jack, I don't know
Ugh.
who was at the time. But yeah, they did Mellow dirty, man. But
Mm,
hopefully they retire his jersey. Yeah, I would be an advocate of that because
yeah.
he did help them get to like the Eastern Eastern Conference at one point,
Mm,
and the team was losing. It was when he did a lot of stuff for the Knicks and brought the energy back to it because it was a time like that 14, that era. That was when Melo came. Was yeah, that was yeah. I feel like he was in his prime as well. Different type of game than the Nuggets, but
hmm
yeah,
So
yeah,
when people ask me my favorite drummers, it's I grew up listening to Steve Jordan and Steve Smith and Steve Gadd, but I would say Tony Williams, Tony Williams, Tony Williams, Tony Williams is your top
yeah.
five basketball players. Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah. No, I do. It's Carmelo Anthony. No, yeah. And I do. I mean, I love watching Kobe. I thought Kobe was always like, man, that is like, you can't stop him. And
Mm,
this is work ethic. I try to apply that to like, just in life. And, just when I watched his thing, I was like, yeah, this is how you got to work hard. He was putting like 5,000 shots a day or something like that. It was crazy.
mm.
So, yeah. But Kobe was another one I was like, yeah, Kobe was, yeah, that was the one. Now, I was
So
never a LeBron fan.
I was about to ask
But I
you
was
that LeBron or Jordan.
Jordan. But I respect LeBron though. I do respect LeBron, and I do think he's an incredible player. I really do. You know, and I think I understand why he's King James. I understand. He's it's crazy, but for me, I like Melo, I like Kobe. I like to watch them. And Jordan, like the goat. So
Steph.
I respect that. I like it. I think he's one of the best shooters. Like he probably is the best shooter. I don't know. I grew up Ray Allen. Ray Allen was the sharpshooter. So, but
Yeah.
you know, the way Stephen Curry off the dribble and the way I don't know how he does that. That's just crazy.
Mm.
Yeah, he's the one.
So so it was basketball, and you realized you weren't growing, but you realized you were growing in your talent in drumming, so you decided to keep playing. After LaGuardia, why'd you decide to go to SUNY Purchase?
So when I was looking at colleges, I was like, man, I don't want to really leave the city because I feel like all the information is there. Like I feel like all my favorite drummers, all my favorite musicians are playing in the city, and I got the chance. I'm able to go and see it, and then there's jam sessions. So I'm like, God, I didn't want to leave the city. I almost went to the school in Boston called NEC, but
Mm,
I was like, nah, I don't want to leave this. I just didn't want to. So when I found out about Purchase and I looked at the faculty and stuff, I said, oh, it's the same faculty as Juilliard and Manhattan School of Music, but I'm only
mm,
like 45 minutes out the city, and I get to be on a campus, full of creatives like dancers and theater and like, just regular liberal arts and all these different people, and it felt like a college campus. And when I got my acceptance letter, I got in for economics as well as jazz studies.
what
Yeah, and I
really?
got a scholar and I got a scholarship to go. So I was like, I think I'm gonna try this.
So did you balance your economics and your music studying?
I only did economics for 2 years, and
Okay.
then because it was only 20, like I was double majoring, so I was taking like 29 credits a semester, and
Wow.
it just got to the point where it was a lot. I would be doing economics in the morning to like 12 o'clock, and then from 1 to 6 is music every
Mm,
single day,
mm,
every single day. So it was just I was just exhausted. I was burnt out. And then as I started like developing my craft and like going out to sessions and stuff, I started getting, gigs and started like, meeting people and playing. I'm like, this is what I really want to do. Like, I wasn't really happy. Like I had to like leave a jam session because I got a 9 a.m. micro test in the morning.
mm,
It was like, this
mm.
is too much. So, but ultimately, I mean, I still have those credits. I might go back. I might, it's time. I still have it. Like, I have like a year left in terms of that. So, but I was taking, yeah, it was rough. That first couple years was rough, you
Mm.
know. But I'm happy that I did the music. I
Uh,
stuck with music.
yeah, a lot of people would say the same thing. We're glad you stuck with the music because you're an
Thank you.
incredible musician. There's Carmelo Anthony and there's other basketball players that you mentioned that you grew up watching. Who were some of the drummers that you grew up listening to?
Man, it's funny. It's funny when my brother hears this, he's gonna laugh. But like the first drummer I seen really play for real is my older brother, and in church. And I was like, man, I want to do that. Like, because my family was very heavily influenced in church and choir. My dad was a minister of music. My family was singing in the choir, so we was there all the time. And watching my brother, that made me want to play. Then, I had my dad used to like do gigs and stuff. So that I had one of my dad's great friends, late Wally Gator Watson, was one of those people. He, like, I was a little baby sitting on his lap, like playing the drums. You know what I'm saying? So unfortunately, when he passed, it was like, it was a big thing because that was like, those are the two people that I was like surrounded by when
Mm.
it came to, like my early stuff. And then growing up, I was like, around the gospel music workshops. So I was like just around a lot of gospel musicians
Mm.
like Eddie Haywood, Gerald Haywood, and stuff like that. But when it shifted for me, when I was like, this is like, when I heard like Jeff Tane Watts,
Okay.
and when I
Okay.
heard like Marcus Gilmore, and I heard like Tony Williams, I was like, whoa, what is this? This is different. You know what I'm saying? But it was like, yeah, yeah. So it shifted from like church to, you know, the jazz. But it's all connected in a way. All connected.
What was the first Tane thing that you heard?
Kenny Garrett songbook, Two Down, One Across.
Mm.
That was in high school.
I got to check that out.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I was doing an audition where I was helping one of my friends do an audition, and he played. He said, "I want to do this song called Sing a Song of a Song," and he was like, "But you should check out the record." So I just played the record from top to bottom. If that was the first song too that I want to cross on that album, I was like, "Yo," because growing up, like, I would do like the jazz like things on this. I would do like my dad would put me in like the conservatory, and I was doing like jazz on the weekends. But it was like I didn't think I thought it was like "Fly Me to the Moon," like stuff
Mm.
like I didn't. It was a lot of big band stuff. I didn't know about small groups until I got to like high school, and then I was like, "Yo, I didn't know you." I was always taught like 2 and 4, chop wood,
Mm.
goom goom. I didn't know about the Compton and breaking it up, and so then when I heard like Tang breaking it up the way he was breaking, I was like, "Oh, you can do this! This is oh man, this is this is whoa, whoa." But then and then the swing, I'm like, "Oh, that ride beat," So yeah, Jeff Tane Watts was like the first like drummer. And I was like, this is this is something else. I was, kind of like
Tony Williams was something a certain album that you heard that you were introduced to him and you were like, oh man.
4 and More,
All
Miles Davis.
right, you got to tell me something. Everybody talks about that, and I tried to listen to it. I don't understand. My favorites were Believe It, the stuff in the '70s, and I had to go back to listen. What is it about Four and More that everyone thinks is his like best work? What is it about that?
His comping. It's
Mm.
crazy the way he's breaking it up. Like it's like the hi-hat is not on 2 and 4. He's the way he's communicating with Miles, the way he's communicating with the band with Herbie. It's like it's you hear the conversation within himself, and the pattern's still going.
Mm.
So like just the way he breaks up his right foot, his left foot, his snare, and all the different things. Like it's truly so much. I still pull from like if I need some inspiration or like just some ideas like that, you can pull just so what. There's the record so what they do it like they do it fast and
Hmm.
like man the stuff that he's playing with Ron and the hookup. Yeah, it's this for me. It's the comping. Like he never runs out
Okay.
of ideas, and he's like 17, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
17. It's like that's to me what did it. Yeah, his comping.
Mm.
The conversation. I'm like the left foot. Like all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Like yeah, it was.
All right. I need to go
Yeah,
back and just listen to that because
listen
maybe
to
I
that.
And maybe I'll get inspired just like you are.
Yeah, he's the one.
All right, so Tony, Jeff Tain Watts, if you had to pick three more, who would you pick?
Like I said, Marcus Gilmore,
Oh, that's right. And your brother.
my my brother. He don't see. He don't play no more. He doesn't play no
What?
more. I haven't seen my. Yeah, like I can't remember. Like I can't remember. Like he wouldn't show me no videos. He wouldn't share with me. Nah, he doesn't even play
Wow.
drums no more. Yeah, but I remember watching him play with the choir. That was like what made me want to play the drums. Yeah, seriously, like that was what it was. I was like, this is cool. I don't know, like he's a kid. You always want to be like your older brothers. You want to, my older brother was like older than me. Like he had like when I was born, he was 17. So
Okay.
so he
Okay.
was like my big brother. Yeah. So Marcus Gilmore, Chris
Mm-hmm.
Coleman.
Oh yeah.
I've never that. Oh my god, clean. I found that out in like high school. Another one. Like there's a video on YouTube called Hebrews 11, 11,
Mm.
11, whatever. Oh, it's just some of the cleanest drumming ever.
Mm.
But, and then I'm gonna say this is a tough one. I'm gonna say Dennis Chambers.
Okay.
Like Dennis Chambers. Yeah, I'm gonna say Dennis.
Mm.
I'm gonna say Dennis. I think I'm gonna say I'm gonna say Dennis. Yeah, it's
And
just so hard. So many drums.
yeah, there's a lot of choices. But those are good, hey, man. Everybody has their thing, but I can definitely agree with you on those things. When you were listening to all these people, you develop your own style. You decided to leave school, and did you go on tour with somebody? Did you decide to just get back to New York and start playing? And what was your path after SUNY?
So during SUNY, we were going to a lot of jam sessions. Like we were going to this, we were going to Smalls. We were going to this club called New Blue. And when I went to New Blue, that's when I started meeting so many different musicians. And I met Ray Angry. And from there, I literally, I would be going to the clubs every night, and he called me to do this. There was this artist at the time. Her name was Nicole Bush. She was signed to Rock Nation, and we did her live in New York City album. And that, like, I just turned 20. Like, I remember I couldn't even get into the club because I wasn't 21 yet. So on my 21st birthday, like that week, I went to the club and I played for the first time and I met him. And then from there, we started, we just developed this brotherhood. And, he started trusting me on stuff and I started playing, started calling me for things. And that's how I started getting into breaking my way into the industry in terms of like, the New York scene. And I used to play a lot. Like my brother Jason Clotter, he was always, because for me, I was always like in so many different worlds. I'm like, oh, I'm going to do the hip hop, I want to do the jazz, and I want to do this. And my brother always kept me like, oh, you make sure you still listen to this, make sure you still shutting this stuff, make sure you. So he used to always, we used to always have sessions. He used to always call me for these gigs, like I'm doing straight ahead or doing stuff like that. So I was like, just that's why I love New York, because you can really see any type of music, in one night, so. New Blue was the spot for me, and going to Smiles was the spot for me, just absorbing that. And I used to always just go like just to watch shows like at Blue Note, because some of my favorite artists was always at Blue Note. But from there, I started just playing, and from there, that's how I got connected with Kenny Garrett, because I was in Smalls one day, and I think one of his piano players saw me play, and then from there we started playing, and Kenny heard a video of me playing with him, and then that's how it, just being in the right time, right place. But that's really how it started. After college, I just went out to jam sessions and stuff and started meeting people. That's literally that's literally how I got connected. Just being in the right place, the right time, you know.
Was
Yeah.
was musical theater on your radar at that point?
Musical theater wasn't. But you know what? I was grateful that I had a great mentor. One day, my dad, my dad called me. He said, "I need you to come play at this church service with me," because my dad sings, and it was his home church. And one day, sometimes you never know who's watching. Long story short, I call him my uncle now. But one day he gets a phone call, like, saying, "Yeah, does your son read? I heard him play. He sounded great." He said, "Yeah, he does read." Da, da, da. Turns out that and my Zane Mark and my dad grew up together, and
Oh, really?
from the yeah, they grew up together in church, and that was a connection. So that's my aunt for real. But like, he was the one that like introduced me to the theater, that introduced me to this world that I didn't know it really existed. And he's been mentoring me ever since. I got that. He called me for the first time, and it's funny because this. I always say Zane Mark changed my life, and Camille Brown changed my life because when I was junior in high school, no, junior in college, he called me to do a workshop with Camille Brown. I think she was working on the Wiz at the time at the uni, and from there, that's how everything spiraled into this, And he's hard on me. He teach me the game. He teach me, just all the right how to how to be a professional musician, all the right qualities, stuff like that. So I really learned, the theater from him. So crazy.
Thank you, big brother Zane. I worked with Zane the last time I worked with him a couple times before, but really over the past 3 or 4 years working on this Soul Train musical, he's been the dance arranger and just getting to know him better and talking with him. And he's a funny guy to work with and very, very good at what he does.
Oh
And
yes.
he's a very good teacher. I'm glad he plucked you out and put you in a different, part of the music business. The thing about Broadway, a lot of musicians don't really think about it. But when you find out about it and you find out the musicians that are part of this community, it's a whole other scene. And there's a bunch of us that are just doing this. And there's so many great musicians. So it's a good world to know about. And I didn't know anything about it. And I kind of got pulled into it. And I'm glad I'm doing it when
Yeah.
I'm doing it.
I'm yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean that's what interests me when I was like, because I remember I think you did a master class in LaGuardia, and like you were saying at the time you were doing, I don't know if you were doing Memphis, or was it? I
It
think you were doing Memphis.
damn, it's a long time ago. It's 10 years ago. Where were
Yeah,
you in? Wow.
yeah, I think you were doing Memphis, and I think somebody brung you and they're like, "This is a Broadway musician, and this is what it is," and you was explaining it to it, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is what? Oh really? Cool." Because you don't know the different ways you can, as a musician, you can make money and have a living and have a life because you think it's just gigs, but there's so many different things. Like and Broadway was when that interested me because I started getting into in high school about theater. You know what I'm saying? So like my first theater experience was in high school. You know, and my teacher Kevin Blanc, he was the one that introduced that. So like I was, I didn't know what it meant, like reading, getting my reading together and being consistent and all those different things. So I'm grateful for the training that I got in LaGuardia because it prepared me. Didn't know I was going to be doing it because they had me doing opera and theaters. Like it prepared me for the stuff that I'm actually using still to this day. That almost 6 8 years ago.
When you were
Yeah.
you were out of college and you were playing at New Blue and met Ray Angry, and shout out to Ray. I don't know him, but I know he
Right.
went to Howard HU. But anyway,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but then you get connected to Zane. You start doing shows. You're doing all kinds of things. Was the first thing you did, was it for Color Girls or was it the Harder They Come?
No, the first the first off Broadway musical thing I ever did was this musical by Tariq Trotter from the Roots called Black No More.
Okay.
Black No More. And we did it at the Signature Theater. That was my first ever show.
How'd you get connected with Black Thought?
My uncle, he was the, well, him and Daryl Waters was doing they were working together and he ended up being the music director and he brought me on as a rehearsal drummer. And then, from there, I had the opportunity to actually play the show. And
Mm.
to me, that was some of the most fun. The hanging with Black Thought, and it was one of those experiences like, wow, I'm in the room with like somebody I grew up listening to. It's the first, it was amazing because just to, I learned a lot. Like I learned because I was still young. I was still young. I was like, and it's funny because we were working on, like I was doing the beginning workshops. So it was so many different phases of it. So I was working on this show for a minute. But when we actually started to work and put the show on its feet and stuff, I learned so much about, what it's like to be a musician, a broad musician, and just being on time, and making sure you on it, and taking notes and writing the parts and knowing to change all these different things, but also just on the breaks, hanging and learning. Like for me, I'm always trying to absorb, and that's the best part, like part of it, like being able to be in the room where where it's creating and where it's building and hanging with him, and he's showing me music and he's teaching me the game. I'm like, man, this is crazy. I'm like, I'm waiting, like I'm excited to go to work from 10 to 6. So
That's
it
a
was
lot.
dope.
The thing about those the long days, 10 to 6, but like you said, you learn a
Woo.
lot, and it's cool to be in that room where you see Darren Waters doing the orchestrations and Zane is teaching you things, and then you get to speak to Reek, man. That's what's the
Yeah, that was
biggest
a
lesson you got out of that? What's the biggest takeaway you got?
man. Let me see. The biggest takeaway I got from that whole experience was I learned so many things. I think pace. Like I feel like being able to pace myself, being able to just like understand what it takes to put a show together. Nothing is ever done overnight, but I really learned what it is to work hard. Like what it really, educate. Like it's just to be in a room full of all these creatives. I think John Lee did the book and just learning and seeing how all put together. I learned what it was like to what it took to create a Broadway show.
Mm,
Like that was my biggest. I'm like, wow, this is not just a no, no, no. There's so many different moving parts to it.
mm,
And the best part was like being able to, my first experience, it's hip hop. It's a hip hop show. So I'm doing hip hop. And I'm like, whoa, but it's like hip hop with a touch of African, and some jazz. Like
mm,
that was to me, that was the music of that. Like that, I wish we did a sound or something because it was a little bit of everything. We were swinging, we were
mm,
playing like I had an African drum, a
mm-hmm,
djembe. I had a djembe next to me on certain things where I'm playing like a djembe rhythm with the kick and the hi hat, and then I'm playing hip hop grooves and I'm playing some like West African groups. It's just so much stuff, and it taught me like when I say pace, it taught me to okay, okay, one thing at a time. You know what I'm saying, and like learn how to lock in. And I also learned like timing, because at that time we were doing there was no click
mm,
and but my uncle would do an exercise where like he would start the clip, right? And we were playing to the groove, right? And then he would, as like in the middle randomly, he would take the click out and we're still playing. And if that is, and when he puts the click back on, and if it's not locked in, you know what I'm saying? So it was boot camp. It was boot camp. Like, but all those little things experienced that helped me shape my playing and all of, and just my musicality. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot because that was the first show I started with. Like I seen it from the beginning,
mm.
bare bones to like when we did our off Broadway run at the Signature Theater.
And how long was that run?
It's about 2 months, and it's funny because when that show closed, the day it closed, the next day was my first day of rehearsal at For Color Girls.
What?
Yeah, 2021.
Oh, 2021 too.
I'm sorry, 2022.
Okay. All right.
2022.
Wow.
2 years ago, yeah, 2022.
Okay. And then you did that. Was that on Broadway?
Which one?
For Color Girls.
For Color Girls was on Broadway. It wasn't on
Wow.
Broadway for long, but it was on Broadway for like a couple, like 3 months.
Okay.
And that was my first Broadway, like chair, like holding, doing that.
And you did the rehearsals,
I did, well,
the
because they
same
had
thing.
I had they did an off Broadway run when it was during the pandemic.
Hmm.
And then I think COVID happened,
Hmm.
and then they wanted to bring it back, and they wanted to do that. So I did when they brought it back. So I did that, and Camille A. Brown brought me onto this project. I was doing the rehearsal stuff, and then all the way up until when the show was out.
So after For Color Girls, were you starting to work on Hell's Kitchen? Like when were you involved with Hell's Kitchen?
Oh man,
Was
shoot.
that years later?
So I'm trying to think the timeline. So when I did For Color Girls, we ended in the spring of 2022, and then I got the call to do The Harder They Come.
Oh, that's right. That's right. With Kenny.
If we're going just based off Broadway stuff, just Broadway stuff, that was the timeline.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
started with Black No More, where I did that for a year and a half, and then I did For Color Girls for the 3 months, and then I
Hmm.
got a call about a month later to do The Harder They Come, and that's when my uncle connected me with Kenny Seymour. He was looking for a drummer. It's reggae, and for me, I'm Jamaican, so it's kind of like for me, I was like, whoa, this took me back because it's all the stuff that my dad was playing, and
Mm.
when we was in the crib cleaning, and so I'm listening to It's the Music of Jimmy Cliff, and I was like, oh yeah. So I'm like dusting off the like, just trying to remember, and it's every time like we reach the Rivers of Babylon and all it. Oh, I can't. It took me back to a place where I was a child again.
Mm.
And I did that week. So I did the October, I think October, I think the workshop started in July. It was stuff starting in July, and that went all the way up until March or April or March of 2023. So
Okay.
end of 2020, the summer 2022 to 2023 is when I did the Harder They Come,
Mm.
and that's when everything started changing outside of Broadway.
So what changed outside of Broadway?
So when I did the Harder They Come, that's when I got the call to play for Herbie.
Herbie who? No, I'm just kidding. So how'd you get? So was that through Kenny Garrett or was that through?
So yeah, so basically I was playing with Kenny Garrett like before Herbie. I was playing with Kenny Garrett because me and Kenny was supposed to play from before the pandemic, and the pandemic hit, so we kind of like lost touch for a little bit, and then we always kept in contact, and then I was supposed to do some shows, and there was some schedules and stuff because I guess I was doing a show, like I was doing like a Black Memorial, and I couldn't like sub out or something like that. But then it started working out. Like I started doing, So the funny thing is that so when I was doing The Harder They Come, when the show was up, Camille Brown, because I always say Camille Brown, my uncle connected me with Camille Brown back when I was 19.
Mm.
And she always would call me for things. Like she would always call me for her work, her dance. Anytime she was choreographing the show and she needed a drummer in the room, she was always calling me. Or anytime she was working on something or holding auditions or, anything, like even then it started turning into me helping, playing with her company and stuff like that. Later down the road, she would always call me for things. So one day she called me and she said, "Hey, I am I'm working on Terrence Blanchard's opera at the Met called Champion. Well, Fire Shut Up My Bones at the time. I did that a while ago, but what really did it was when I did Champion. This was during the time I'm playing. So now the show is set. So I'm playing The Harder They Come at night. So my days are free. So she was like, she said, yeah, I'm choreographing Terrence Blanchard's Champion at the Met, and I really need a drum in the room because it's jazz mixed with opera, and it's some of the music was, because the stuff that Terrence wrote is amazing. Like, and it was a little complicated for more than just a piano. Like, and there needed to be some rhythms because she needed. So I was like, at first because I was coming from somewhere, and I was like, man, geez, I was like, because I was feeling it. I'm like, I'm exhausted. But anytime Camille calls me, I'm like, yes, I'm gonna do it. You know what I'm saying? Always. And I'm glad I did because I did it. And when I got in the room, it was so the rehearsals was from 10 to 6. No, 10 to 6. And I would leave a little early, and then I would play the show at night.
Mm.
And I was doing that for a good month. And it turned into just me helping her with the dance stuff. And then we had a presentation. And then the director was asking, "Hey, can we use him as a rehearsal drummer? Because this would help us." For me, the director was like, "This will help me put the show together and bring it to life because the music and da da da." And then they asked me, and I said, "Yeah, I would love to." And that's when Terrence Blanchard started coming into the room. And one day he heard me. One day he was there, and I was playing the music. I didn't think anything of it, And he heard me play, and next thing I know, I get a phone call from Beverly Hills. I'm like, "Excuse me."
Really? What did
Excuse
Herbie
me?
call you on the phone? He called you personally?
He definitely called me personally.
What did he
And
say? That's cute. That's cool. What did he say?
he said, "Hey, is this Jaylen?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Hey, this is Herbie Hancock." And I didn't hear anything else after that. I'm like, who's pranking me? I kept looking at the phone like, what is going on, bro? Like, what is this happening to me? Because for me, I'm sitting here like, I'm like, no way, no way. And at the time, I didn't even know Terrence was playing with Herbie Hancock. Like,
Mm.
I didn't even know. I'm just in the room trying to not mess up, like, because I don't want the dancers to mess up. So I'm trying to read the music down. And it's funny, Jeff Tain Watts actually ended up playing. It was the drummer for the show. but I was just a rehearsal drummer.
Wow.
And it was one of those things where, like, yeah, because that was one of that's Terrence's boys. So it's like I was able to be in the room with all these giants and learn and absorb, and like, just hearing. I asked him to this day. I'm like, what did I, like, what made you, like, man? And he said, you was killing it. Playing. You heard the groove of the podcast. I was like, what? Because and that's what I said. I'm like, you never know who's watching. You never know who's listening. And even when you're doing something like you're a rehearsal drummer for, what I'm saying? That's how I got connected. That's how I got connected through it. And that's how I ended up here in Australia for some, so it's like, it's crazy. That 2023 was like the year that changed everything, because everything happened. And at the time I was still playing with Kenny. So it was like, yeah. And I thought I was just filling in at the time, like, because he called me. He said, "Hey, yeah," he said, "I have the show in in LA next week. I was wondering if you're free. You want to play with me?"
What?
And I was like, mute, silent. He's like, "Hello, anyone there?" I'm free. So yeah, so I learned, so then, they flew me out to LA, and then I played the first show. And I thought I was just subbing because I thought the drummer couldn't make it. And then as soon as I got off the stage, the manager was like, "Hey, so we have these shows come for the rest of the, these are shows for the rest of the." I was like, "Wait, what? What's going on? Like,
Really?
what is going on?" Exactly. Exactly. So there was a moment during that summer where I was like touring with Kenny, and the next show was New Orleans Jazz Fest, and I had to fly out, and I was in Germany, like I was in Europe with Kenny for like a month, and I'm like, oh, I have 3 days off or 4 days off in Barcelona. So like I was out with Kenny. We played a lot, the middle of the tour in Barcelona. Then they flew me out from Barcelona to New Orleans to play the Jazz Fest with Herbie, and flew me back to finish the run. And then like it was like stuff like that was happening, and it was happening so fast. Like, and I'm still doing The Harder They Come. This happening right after The Harder They Come closed.
Wow.
Like, yeah, this was, so like so after I did the thing in LA, I came right back to play The Harder They Come and finish out the run. And like the week after is when I started touring. It happened just like that. It was like, it,
That's so cool, man.
that was the timeline in terms of like, 2023 going from Broadway and shifting to like you doing stuff outside of Broadway as well, but still being able to, still be in the Broadway world.
Well,
Having
speaking of that, you should have the ability to do other things, because certain things might happen where you do get a call from Herbie Hancock or somebody like that. And you, of course, you want to say yes. Now, the thing about having a show, of course, you're obligated to play the show. Doing these shows off Broadway and Broadway, what was your approach in finding subs?
Oh man, you know what? It's my approach is like, so for example, the hardest show that I had to find subs on was The Harder They Come, because it was reggae. So if you have to have the feel, and then you also have to know how to read. And a lot of the times people want people to have broad experience. And it was one of those things where I'm like, man, I'm struggling. Like, who can play reggae, like, can have the feel, and I can read and do a show to share. And thank God, because we ended up, Rosa, she's the chair holder on subs.
Yeah,
She
she's
came
great.
in, I got connected. I think Kenny connected me with her. I think Kenny connected me with her. And she came in and she smacked it. I got a text when I landed. Rosa killed it. Like, fire emoji, fire emoji. I said, yes, yes, yes.
Like, can you do these dates? Can you do these dates?
Yeah, I'm like, yo, please, because I've never subbed out the show before. So when I got the call, I was also had to learn the music, but scrambling to get a sub to, shadow me and watch me and do this stuff. And I had people come watch me before, but it was just like, when they're doing, I'm like, ooh, yeah, I don't know if that's gonna work. Like, but yeah, it's a lot of work. Preparing a sub is a lot of work, But that was the hardest show for me, because I was like, how do I find somebody that has experience and do this and that? And then and Rosa was that, and then my brother that I grew up with we met in LaGuardia, and we locked in. He ended up coming there and smacking it too, because he has some similar background, similar upbringing, and he can read music as well. And he had that pocket. So my brother Joshua Simpson, he came in and helped me and step, and he's in the gospel world, so he's it's hard to get a hold of him. But them two, they really helped me get through it. They helped me with that one. But that was that for sure. Trying to find the right person to do that. Yeah, that show hardly come.
So Herbie takes you out on a way. One question about that: when he asked you to play the show, do you get, with Broadway, you get a book? Does he give you a book that you gotta, read off of, or just say, just learn these songs, and I'll see you on the gig?
Ain't
Which
no book. No, it was no book. It was, it's funny. It was just like, because, at the time Wayne Shorter just passed away and he was looking to do something different, change the set. So they sent me just a recording of the set. And from there, I just did my own research. I listened to that, and then I listened to see what was going on. I just went on YouTube to see what the sound was, what's they're playing. I just started learning it. Like, they really didn't give me a set list. They really didn't give me like, this is this. No, it was just, I had to do my own. I did my own take. I said, okay, they sent me this, but I'm gonna take this, learn that, and I'm also gonna learn the most recent show I could find on YouTube and study that, because you just never know whether they do something different. You just never know. So when I got in there, we had rehearsals at Walt Disney Hall. That was the concert. It was on Palm Sunday too. So I was like, I had to tell church, like, I can't make it. I'm telling you, my life is like, ooh. It was crazy. It was literally crazy. So we came in there, and then we ended up running down the set that I learned on YouTube.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm grateful. I actually, I was like, oof, it paid off. Cool. Yeah. And it was similar to the recording, but it was just different. It was a different vibe on different recordings. So I was like, that's the thing. I'm like, you know what? Let me dig a little deeper in terms of, and try to dive in, because I'm like, this is a call of like, for me, I'm over here like, wait a second, like, what is happening? Like, do I even deserve this? And there's people that's been in the game way longer that deserve this. A plethora of amazing drummers. Even me getting nominated for Modern Drummer, I'm just grateful. I'm humbled by it. Everything is happening so fast, but I'm grateful. God doesn't make any mistakes, so I'm just grateful. It doesn't matter if I win or lose. I think music is not a sport, but to be able to be recognized for the hard work you put in this is it's amazing. It's a blessing. So I'm grateful for that. So.
Well, I think we go back to the sports thing. I think you got the call to be on the team that's about to go to the championship.
I
See,
like it.
you, James Genus, Herbie, and who else is in the band?
Terrence Blanchard,
Mm,
Lionel Lueke.
mm.
Oh man, those are my big brothers. They are. Yeah, I just had a boxing session with T. My first one. We was getting in, yeah. Right before this. So they really turned, like, they're my mentors, but they're my big brothers, and it's so much fun being on the road with them. I've never been away from home this long, so I'm grateful, but it's life on the road is great. I'm always learning, absorbing, and just taking it in.
The harder they come, Herbie Hancock, Alicia Keys.
Okay. This is a funny story. I played my last show with Herbie in September 23rd, something like that. It was at Monterey. We played Monterey Jazz Festival, and
Mm.
I get a call. I get a call from the best contractor ever. It's my big sister. It's like another mother to me. And I'm like, still in California. And she's like, hey, are you in town? I said, I could be. What's up? She said, would you want to play for Alicia Keys' new musical, Hell's Kitchen? I had to audition for it, actually, because they were holding auditions. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I had to audition for it because they were holding auditions, and Adam Blackstone is the music supervisor. So I was like, okay, cool. And, she was like, Alicia Keys and Adam Blackstone. And I was like, whoa, what's happening? You know what I'm saying? And I was like, okay, cool. I said, what's the details? She said, I'll send you the details. Well, whatever, this is audition date and this and that. I was like, okay, cool. I said, okay, cool. Just send me the information and I'm down. So I got the call to do that. And I had to kind of move my trip a little earlier because I was going to stay in California for a little longer so that I could make the audition. I flew into New York and they had auditions at the Public Theater in the rooms, and Tom Kitt was auditioning, and they had me at the Zoom camp there, and Christy Norder is the contractor. Christy Norder is the one that gave me the call, and I met Christy because she was a contractor for Black No More, but she also
Mm.
played. She also played saxophone. She did reeds for the show.
Mm.
So we connected through playing and hanging, and she teaching me the game. And this is, yeah, like, just being in that. So that's how I got connected with Christy. And yeah, like I auditioned. She was in the room. Tom Kitt was in the room, and I played through a couple grooves. And then 3-4 days later, I get a phone call asking, having an offer, would you want to be the drummer for Hell's Kitchen?
Mm.
Because it had to be approved from Alicia Keys. Alicia Keys had to approve it, see it. Adam Blackson had to approve it, had to see it. Like it had to go through so many different things, and I was just grateful because I'm like, whoa, I didn't even know. I'm like, well, I don't know, because I know BBE, Adam built this big empire, BBE, so I know he has a plethora of musicians, and so I was just grateful to be, a part of this process and being able to be selected as one of the musicians to play and be a part of the show, because nothing was guaranteed, so that's really
So,
what happened.
do you remember what
That's how I
song or what thing you had to do in order to audition?
had to do the song called Pawn It All. And the group was like, do, 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 get do, 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 get do. And I did Empire State of Mind. And it had a little bit of reading. Like I had to read a little bit.
Mm.
Yeah. Something like that. It was like an arrangement. But not anything crazy. And yeah, it was great. It had a bass player with me. Michael Tucci was in the auditioning us. He was the bass
Michael,
player in the
man.
room. It made it easier because I'm used to playing with Michael T. And the only thing is though, with this show that I was kind of like, this is gonna be different. Because she said there's one thing though. You're gonna be on electronic drums. And
Yeah.
I've never played on the only time I play electronic drums is in Guitar Center. And that's no shade. That's no shade to electronic drums. I think Roland makes great, drums. And I think Drum Tech is what I'm playing at the show now. Makes great drums. And what other drum? Zildjian is now have drums. I can't wait to play that. But for me, I didn't grow up playing electronic drums. It's a whole different vibe. And I had to learn I had to learn how to play those drums
So
in the way with the same approach. I'm telling you, it was a learning curve. It was adjustment. Like it's so different.
tell people what the biggest difference is between playing acoustic and electric drums.
The feel, the touch, man. It's like essentially you're playing on when you're playing regular drums. You're hitting like it's acoustic. You can hear the skin. You're hitting the skin. You feel the cymbals, like you hear the air between it, like what I'm saying, you get to be dynamic for where you can play around, get different maximum, you get all these different sounds like the drum. You can, and versus when you play electronic drums, it's kind of like depending, I mean, there is settings you can change it, but it's like it's night and day. The feel is different. It's like you're essentially hitting rubber and everything sounds, it's like yeah, it sounds like you're playing key drums. Like if you do like get like the key drum stuff, but it's difficult. But also teaches me how to be consistent with how you hit the drum, playing in the center when how to hit all these different things. You can't do cross sticks on electronic drums. How you hit the drum has to be because how you hit the cymbals. How you roll on the cymbal is the hardest thing. You can't roll on the cymbal. Sometimes the computer and the digital stuff, it like sometimes it may not compute with what you're playing. You know what I'm saying? So you have to know you have to know your drum. You have to know to spend time on it. Anytime I tell my subs, I'm like, spend time on this rig. You can't just come in and play it and approach it like how it is because this is a whole different, like it's a whole different feel, a whole different vibe. Like the hi-hats is like it's the craziest thing. Sometimes when you open up the hi-hat, it makes the sound of when you were hitting it. Like this, so it's just a whole different, it's a whole different vibe. It's a whole different approach. And also, sometimes I'll be weary of my hands because sometimes it hurts because I'm essentially hitting rubber. There's no pushback. Everything is dead. Versus when you hit, you got a recoil, doom, 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 acoustic drums. You hear the crack of the snare. You get to get different textures. You know what I'm saying? Versus that, it's just dead. Like you have to pull it back. You know what I'm saying? It's like it doesn't matter if it's real feel or not. It sucks. Like it sucks. But you know what? I mean, it makes sense for what I guess having the sound be consistent because for this show we're on stage, and so it makes sense. And yeah, I had to. It was a big adjustment and learning curve for me. I was like, man, this is different. And I'm like, dang, the first time they're gonna hear me first time Alicia Keys and Adam Vice going to hear me plays on some electronic drums. But one thing Adam taught me was like, approach it like it's real drums. So
Mm.
I try to do that.
People that are listening, I'm sure you might have heard this from Christy, and you probably figured this out over the years. You have an acoustic drum set, and you have a djembe, and you have electric drums, and you have percussion. You get paid as a musician on Broadway for each little thing that you do. It's called the double. You get paid extra.
Yes. Yes.
And for somebody like yourself playing this Alicia Keys musical, not only are you the drummer and you get paid for that, you get paid 25% extra on top of that because you're playing electric drums
Right.
and you're on stage
Right.
and you're in costume.
Yeah. Well, we're not in costume for this one.
Oh, you're not? Oh, really?
We tried. We in all black though. So we get a chance, we mix it up.
Okay. I didn't that's interesting. I never saw the show. I just know people. I've seen Jesse Ray
Gotta go
Leach
see it.
post things and I see you're in the corner, well, on one level, I guess, and there's somebody above you.
Yeah, so I'm on the lower level, and then the two guitar players are on the top level, and then on the other side is the same setup, and we got the percussion player on there, and then the bass player and the keys is up there. So yeah, you got Mark, and you got Ben playing guitar, Victor Pablo on percussion, Aziza Miller, which is Alicia Keys' teacher, and my boy Aaron on bass, and then there's a whole orchestra underneath us. A whole orchestra underneath us, and the MD is underneath us too. 3 keys, it's a string, whole string quartet, and then horns, trumpet, trombone, and reeds. So
Wow.
it's all a big family.
The biggest difference from playing with somebody like Herbie Hancock and playing a Broadway show, what's the biggest differences between the two?
The biggest difference between the two is sticking is being able to stick to the ink. Like when you're on Broadway, you have to, it's like you're playing the same thing every single day, the same way at the same time, because of just like, it's not just you have to doing it for, it's a cue. It might be a cue for a person, somebody to come in, to come sing, and the dancers, versus when you're, playing with Herbie or playing with anybody in the jazz, like it's a lot more freedom. You can, it can, like when you read, sometimes there's sheet music as well, but it's more so implied versus in the Broadway world, play the ink. You know what I'm saying? But also, you have to pick and choose placement where you feel, it's, you add your thing subtly, but you're being supportive. Just in the same with drums, you're supporting, but like but in Broadway, it's a different way. So for me, the biggest difference is being able to play the same thing every single night, the same way, and being consistent in doing that, and sticking to the ink, so that, because sometimes if you do something different, it might throw off one of the actors, it might throw off one of the dancers. So that's the biggest thing. And I think that's also one of it helps me, because I feel like it's all connected, because that helps me being consistent in both worlds. And I learned, I'm like, yeah, this would, and that helps me. Again, with time and being consistent, that helps me with even what I do outside of Broadway.
And what were you looking for when you were hiring subs for Hell's Kitchen?
Well, the first thing I was like, okay, who I know can play electronic drums? Like, who I know has experience? So I was like thinking about what shows have electronic drums. I was like, MJ has electronic drums. And shout out Michael Mitchell and my family over there. And I was like, man, I'm trying to think of MJ. So I stumbled upon Brandon Brooks, and Jesse Ray is another one. And then, actually, I know they had experience. I know Jesse had a show where he did some electronic drums before, and I see, he's doing that. We've been connecting on Instagram for a while, and me and Brandon been talking for a while on Instagram as well. So they came in and they killing it. My boy from college, he's like, man, you think you know drums until you know, my boy knows everything about like the wood, the specs, the type of maple, and this was crafted here. Like we just went to a drum shop before I did the tour. My boy Martine Wade, he was my main sub for Color Girls, and I brought him in on this one because he knows about electronics, he knows how to program and all these different things, and that was like, I was like, man, who has experience on Broadway, but also knows how to play, has experience with electronics, but also still has the feel and it can make it authentic. because it's tough. It's tough. There's been some people that came in that's excellent drummers where it's like, it's just been different. It's different and it's difficult because it's like, oh, it's a big adjustment. And I was the same way. I'm like, yo, I gotta sit with this. Like beyond rehearsal. Like, so everybody's at lunch and I'm over here trying to, hitting the drums, hitting the pads, trying to figure out how to program it, you know. So stuff like that.
Were you ever a gearhead as far as the whole, the plies, the toms, and the different heads, and you know all the kind of things that go into making a drum set? Are you really deep into it as many other people are?
No.
You had to think about it, you're like,
For me, I just want to play some
no.
drums. I'm like, I don't care. I grew up playing on, I grew up in church playing Tama. And but like in for me, I just grew up playing on sometimes when you go to visit different churches, they don't have the best drum kit. So I
Mm,
grew up I was just wanting to play some drums. I didn't really care what I was playing as long as I
mm.
had something. So but as I progressed and went to high school, I feel like that was my most geekiest part. I'm like, ooh, nah, I need this wood and this. I was into like sonar drums and like,
Mm.
I grew up. I thought Pearl was the best drum. Every drum company is great. There's no best drums. There's no, But I'm gonna say because Gretsch is the best drums in the world.
Are they hooking you up with drum sets?
Yeah, I'm endorsed with Gretsch. I'm endorsed with Zildjian, and I'm endorsed with Vic Firth. So those are the
Mm.
best. Those are the best companies in the world. Shout out to every other drum company in the world.
Okay, now
Um,
why Gretchen, not Yamaha?
like Gretchen, like
Sonar.
Gretsch to me, it's that I'm not. It's gonna sound cliche, but it's that Gretsch sound. It's that Gretsch
Mm,
sound. You hear them records, and you hear like the way the snare crack and the way the rack tom crack, and just oh man,
mm,
And also I love because they had a factory in Brooklyn. I'm from Brooklyn, born and raised, so I was like, let's go, let's get it. But drum, I feel like Gretsch to me, I have more control of my sound. Sometimes when I
mm,
play with Yamaha, I feel like it's a little boxy, and it's kind of like I'm kind of limited in the sound I can get.
mm,
But it's useful because anywhere you go, you can find a Yamaha, and kind of similar with Gretsch as well too. But that Gretsch sound. Like I went to this jazz camp back when I was in high school trying to learn how to play jazz. And the students, I just started playing jazz. So everybody's showing up with these kits, these fire kits. I went in there with Questlove breakbeats. And everybody like kind of smirking, you know what I'm saying? And I'm just saying like, I don't know, this is what I have. I live in New York City. I don't have that much room for,
right, right.
but ultimately I played on these. It was a Gretsch Motor Series, red and white. I have a picture. I have a picture of it on Facebook. And when I hit them drums, I'm like, this is the best sounding drums I've ever played. Like literally, like, and I'm like, I'm barely like, it's easy to tune too. Like,
Mm,
I'm like, boom, boom. Oh yeah, everything just
really?
sounded right. Everything sounded right, and it looked beautiful. Like the finish on that, it was a Gretsch Motor Series. I don't even. I gotta ask them if they still do. I need one of those.
So what do you use with Herbie?
I use a
What?
Gretchen USA custom. When we do the US stuff, I use my drums. So they fly my drums out. And I have this, the kit is it's a Gretchen USA 10, 12, 14, and 16, 20-inch bass drum, the
Mm,
W hardware, and I've used black chrome heads. I'm talking to Evans right now. So, they sent me some stuff. And I love it. I love Evans. I know, people, they're like, oh, you gotta get the crown, Remo. Shout out to Remo too. But yeah, I mean, that's what I'm using on the kit. I mean, I love it. I love the warmth and the tone of it. But that's what I'm using. And the finish, it's like I can't even, it's a champagne. I don't even know what they call it. The finish is great because it's like a swirl. It's like 3D. Like when you take a picture of it, it looks, it's trippy.
mm.
Yeah, I need to figure out what the name of it is. They're gonna kill me, but can't remember it right now. But yeah, that's what I use on the road.
What advice would you give to someone who's looking to get into Broadway or just be a successful musician like yourself in New York City?
I would say, it's you can everybody says practice and practice, but when you practice, you also have to practice going out and meeting people and connecting is just as important as practicing. The hang is just as important as being able to play on the bandstand because most of the time, you're going to be hanging with these people for the majority of your day, whether you're on Broadway or whether you're touring. And I say that playing, practicing inside, and also playing and meeting people and creating and just going out, and especially if you're in the New York area, you have to go out. You have to see live music. You have to go to the jam sessions. Just people that say that people that say that that's a waste of time, no, that's wrong. That's false because that's how you get better. Because I learned from my peers. Like I learned, from watching different drummers, watching my friends, shedding with my friends, and practicing and just trying to always learn and be a sponge in terms of that realm. My sister, she was on Broadway. Like that inspired me because I was in high school and she just got her first show was Aladdin. She was an OBC in Aladdin, and that spiraled to Moulin Rouge and dancing and
Mm.
Lampica, all that she's doing. She's like the Broadway person of the family. So I was
Mm.
able to, and then my friend in college, I found out that his father, John Redsecker, is the drummer for Aladdin. So, and I'm over here like, whoa, whoa, so you just going out and connecting and meeting people, and like that's what I'm saying. You'll start to see that like everything's all connected. You know what I'm saying? And it's really a small world. And I'm still new to the Broadway world. So, and I'm also learning, I'm like, wow, this is really a world. This is a whole community that is like separate from the world, I think, and it's a blessing to be a part of it because as a musician, it's hard to, everybody's like, how do you make money? How do you stay, how do you provide, especially if you want a family? Broadway is one of those things where you have steady income where no matter what time every day, that is a downbeat, you know what I'm saying? And people go to teaching and touring, but so there might be a time where you have a family, you may not want to be touring as much and traveling, you know what I'm saying? It's just too much in your body. It is a lot, so Broadway is, if you love music and you love like it's a great place, or it's a great thing to do. I learned a lot from it because it helped me with I love it because not just because it's consistent, but also it makes me a better musician because it forces me to be consistent.
Mm.
And it forces me to, you know, be on it every day, you know what I'm saying? And like help my reading, and I think that all helps with your brain development. It all helps with your just everything, like all the things you don't even think about. So, yeah, I mean, I love it. The only thing that's tough about it is 8 shows a week. 8 shows a week is tough. I will say, like doubles on Wednesday, doubles on Saturday, it's tough. It really is. And depending on what show you have, and depending on what your situation is, you can figure out a schedule that works for you. But I would say to get into those like to go out and play, it's practice and get, of course, practice. That's the number one thing. But also go out and network. You know, and just be a good person. Like don't be bad. Like don't be a douche. I don't know how to say it without cursing.
Yeah, don't be an asshole. I see. I'll
Yeah,
see.
don't be an asshole. Like, yeah, just be cool. Like, just be cool. And sometimes the smartest person in the room is the one that's listening, So like you don't
Mm.
always just learn. Like, I don't know why it's, people I'm never afraid to say I don't know.
Mm.
I always say I don't know. I don't know. Oh no, I never heard of that. No, I don't, because I want to learn. Even if I do heard of it, I want to hear their take on it. You know what I'm saying? Like I always just want to learn and just get better, be better on the bandstand and off the bandstand. Like growth in all ways, because what you deal with off is, it's easy for that to get intertwined, and so it's a matter. It's important to just always learn, always grow, never stop learning. Shout out to my Hell's Kitchen family. That show really taught me a lot in terms of just like being a professional person and just being a man, just learning how to just be on it, you know what I'm saying? And like being around, it's kind of like high profile, you know what I'm saying? Like being around these
Mm-hmm.
A-list celebrities,
Mm-hmm.
working with Adam Blackstone and this amazing cast. It's amazing. Shoshana Bean is killing it every night. And Malia, she's killing it every single night. And Keisha Lewis killing it every single night. Like just to be around that every single day and being around this amazing band, and Lily is directing us, and we did an off-Broadway run, and that was amazing too. Like it was like that's without the strings, and I remember the first rehearsal, I was like when they added the strings and the horn, I'm like, whoa, this just took it to another notch, and I love
Yeah.
being a part of it and the things that come with it, like from playing on the Tony Awards and like doing TV stuff and like doing all these I call it side quests. I'm like, man, this is dope. It gives you like a little sneak peek to what the industry is like for the pop world. Cause it's like we're treating it like a pop show. You know what I'm saying? Like it's Broadway, but we're treating it as if it's yeah, a pop gig, you know what I'm saying? Like with that approach. So I love Hell's Kitchen, where I'm able to be in two worlds at once. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So yeah, I think that's I love that show. I hope that it stays, for as long as it can. And to see people that look like me in the pit, that
Mhm.
is like, to me, that is everything. So that's why I was like, when I saw you, I said I got to talk to you. I'm like, man, you on Broadway? You
And
know what I'm saying? Killing it.
I'm glad there are people like you out there now. Because back when I was doing Memphis, the thing that you had a issue with the harder they come trying to find people that know Broadway and can play a certain style like reggae. All I needed was black drummers to play because we were in 50s juke joint and they had to have a black people. Me and Kenny had to be black on stage. And I had the hardest time finding black drummers that could play this style of music. It was all kind of styles, but to play Broadway. And some people came in and they thought that they can do it. Just because you're a great drummer doesn't mean you're going to be great doing this kind of thing because it requires a certain discipline. And to do the same thing, there have been great people that came into Ain't Too Proud. I mean, amazing bass players, and they were like axed. I'm like, oh man, it's kind of scary, but because they're known on the in the jazz world as being at the top, but you can't bring all that stuff in. You got to play within these certain parameters. And it was the hardest thing to try to find people. But now there's people like you and uh, Brandon and people like Jesse Ray. He's not black, but he's brown skin. But there's a bunch of people out there now. It's a lot of my subs for Ain't Too Proud. We're black, and I'm like, man, it's just great to see more of us doing. Of course, you got all kind of other musicians now playing in different, playing guitar and bass and keyboards.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Doing
it's it's a like I love that. Like it's being able to be and play on a black show is also dope. Like to see,
that too. That too.
yeah, play black music. That's great. So I'm
And
grateful
it,
that all my shows have been that.
oh, that's
Um,
right.
all my shows has always it's been black, and I love it. You know what I'm saying? Being able to work with my people, being able to work and see them create and see it, art, being showcased on the highest level. It's a blessing to see all of that, and I'm always grateful when I have the opportunity to see it. Be in those workshops and create. It's like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and
it's dope.
with people like Camille and Zane and Daryl
Oh yeah,
and Zane
yeah.
has been around, man. He's
He's a beast,
yeah.
and he's been around for a while. I'm telling you, like that is. I always say, okay. Another thing I'll tell you, if find your mentor, like don't be like the old people. They don't know. No. They have all the information. They
Mm,
they will steer you in the right direction, and they will help you get to that next level in terms of like just beyond music. Just making sure you are the best person you can be, because it comes with that, like showing up on time, being on time, and nailing it, and being consistent, and just bringing that energy and that that environment. Being around. It's like Zane is, I call him Unc, and he's the master of that. Like, and watching him work and see how he create, how he creates and the things that, some people work quick. He works quick. Like he's like, okay, play this rhythm. We here, we in, and then like you got to learn how to, and also being able to move and shift, because sometimes things got to be created on the spot. You know what I'm saying? And it's similar to church to me. So I'm like,
mm,
it wasn't at so far out the wheelhouse, but it was more so like doing on this level. Like we did this workshop for Aida, and it was all this African music, and that was so much fun to play.
mm,
Because it was me and Gary Fritz was the percussionist for the workshop,
mm.
and we were just in there, and it was so much fun because there was a lot of rhythm and freedom for us to like, you know, improv and do stuff. And he wrote these amazing. Oh man, so many. I don't know if it's still premiering in the Netherlands, but man, that was a fun one. That was a fun one, and that one I would say was like a fast pace. Everything was changing on site every day on it.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
I just curious. You talk about how you met. Well, maybe this is a good point. You talked about how you met people by going to jam sessions and hanging and just connecting with people in person. You met Ray Angry by going to New Blue and all these other people. A lot of musicians today seem to like focus on social media and putting all their stuff on social media and just showing themselves playing along to certain things in their rehearsal room. do you find that a lot of people in your generation are doing that to their detriment or to their benefit, or are they doing that in addition to going out? Because I never really did that, but what's your opinion on that? I'm just curious.
I think that, excuse me, I think that is important. Like I think social media now has became it's like a LinkedIn. It's
Mm.
like it's a way where people that never heard you before can see what you do and how you play. And anytime when MDs or music directors are looking for musicians, they normally go on Instagram. You know what I'm saying? Or they go on YouTube. And more so Instagram first because they want to see what your vibe is like. Even for artists, when you're an artist and they care about your followers and all this other stuff that don't really matter in terms of that has nothing to do with your artistry. But for musicians, a lot of times we're treating that as a LinkedIn. And it's important that when you do the online content, sometimes you might see somebody that's killing online and you have an actual gig with them in person. It's what happened. I think that's because playing by yourself to attract in front of a camera is different than playing with human beings live in a venue or even in a practice room. I think that the people that only do that and don't go out and play, it's detrimental to that thing. People make a great living because of just brand sponsorships and all these different things. But like, I just hope that there's never like a glitch or internet and Instagram crashes and there's nothing. It's gonna happen. But like, I feel like I would do both, and do that. Like because it's so stuck to it's because then it's like when you're not on Instagram and you're just playing and touring, it's like people like, you ever heard of this person? Oh man, he's killing me. Like, I never heard of him, because they don't have much of the social presence. So it's a middle. It's I think the business aspect of it because also like you also have to treat it. You have to know what It, so again, it's like you being killing, but also being able to know the business. Being able to handle your finances, know what it is, and know what. And people need to know who you are. So I think
Mm.
it's important that you do share content. You don't have to be on your phone all the time and let it take over you, but being able to have a healthy balance of both. I always say go out, because you start seeing people that you're inspiring. Because sometimes you can always make yourself sound good online. You know what I'm saying? That's no shade to nothing. You have the right mix, you have the right tones and stuff. But to hear it live and to hear how, and see some of your favorite, I mean, to me, it is no comparison. So I think that it's a little bit of both. I think each person that does that and just does that can learn from each other. That's my take
Very
on
no, no,
it.
that makes a lot of sense to me. I think that I hope people take away something good from that. So looking ahead, what are some of your personal goals professionally that you have? I know you're a composer. Are any projects that you're working on? Any dream artists that you'd love to work with?
Man, I would say I'm grateful to say that I'm living part of my dream right now. Because like Herbie Hancock is an artist that I never even thought I'd be able to play with. You know what I'm saying? Because that's just something that's like, when I grow up, I want to be in the NBA. When I grow up, I want to be the president of the United States. It's possible, but it's one of those things where it's like, I did not know this would happen this quick. You know what I'm saying? And I'm adjusting and I'm learning that every time as success happens, just kind of like, you also have to be wary because you never know. I mean, you have to just be aware of your surroundings and be aware of who really loves and supports you and who don't. You know what I'm saying? And just making sure that you are grounded in those things. And I think for me, I love playing with Herbie and I'm playing a Broadway. I'm grateful. I really can't complain. As a kid, I never. This is a dream. I dream. I thought I wanted to do this since I was like probably like a senior in high school. Maybe I was like, man, I would love to have a touring gig and then play a Broadway show. That would be great for me. You know what I'm saying? But other things that I love to do, like that I'm working on, I'm trying to get into acting. I'm trying to get into like producing and
Mm.
DJing. So those are things that I'm working on, behind the scenes, working on music, just being an artist, have a trio. I'm working on a trio record and I'm working on an artist like my own music. So yeah, but I love producing and I love DJing. And I'm about to get into taking some acting classes and stuff. Not theater, but like more so like TV and film and stuff like that. Like,
Nice.
so you might see me on a YouTube ad or like a Target commercial.
Good.
Dude, or
I
something
think
like
I
that.
think I think in 2025 in October, just train now. one of the goals that you can still have is to play in the NBA. So I want to see that as
Ah,
well. Come on, man. Let's get your handles together.
uh,
Try
I
out for the
wish.
Knicks.
I wish. Yeah.
And I can't play basketball. I play with my son. I'm all right, but I love
Listen,
to see
I'm
you
down to
play.
play. Let me know. We got a
we need
lifetime in the gym up there.
we need a Broadway. We need a Broadway basketball league, man.
We do. Oh, we should start that. Broadway's
Yes,
basketball league. There,
but
there
thing
it
is,
is.
I think if you're passing to somebody, people be too afraid to catch the ball and hurt their fingers. And but I guess if you start thinking too much about that, that's when you start getting hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, getting your fingers jammed and so like, yeah. You gotta, there's a way that you protect yourself, knowing, who you playing with. Let me see, what type of ball, it's like, man, yeah. I
I
try
guess
to I try
I guess we can't have hard fouls in the
no
Broadway back.
yeah, no. Maybe. Make sure your subs is available. Hold on.
It's like, yo, man, you free tonight? I got hurt, man. I'm on.
Yeah, yo, man. I'm sorry. I did the crossover. Nah, man. I got yeah.
Like
I'm
literally.
icing my legs right now. Crazy.
That's funny, man. Thank you once again, Jaylen Petinaud.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate inviting me on the show and being here. Thank you, Clayton, for having me.
All
Appreciate
right,
it.
I'll talk to you soon.